Welcome to another deep dive with me.
And me. And today,
Today we're diving into
I Know Who You Are.
by Alice Feeney.
It's a psychological thriller.
Yeah, a real page turner.
So we've got excerpts from the book.
You know,
But we're going to be following Amy.
on this wild ride.
Yeah, on this journey.
Through memory and identity and
Trauma.
yeah, so much trauma.
It's really fascinating how Feeney just drops us right into Amy's world.
Yeah.
And she's this successful actress.
Right.
But she wakes up with amnesia.
Oh, yeah.
And she's accused of murdering her husband.
I mean, can you imagine?
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's like waking from a nightmare, but you can't
wake up. Yeah.
And then on top of that,
It gets worse.
her husband wasn't even who she thought he was at all.
This is where the deception starts.
Oh, yeah.
And the psychological manipulation.
Big time.
That makes you question, everything.
It really digs into this idea of identity.
Right.
We build our identity on trust.
Yeah.
And when that trust is shattered, it's like your whole world falls apart.
Yeah, and how do you...
You don't know.
Yeah, you don't even know who to trust.
Who to trust.
Or what to believe.
Right.
Especially when the people you love are the ones...
Especially the people closest to you.
Yeah.
The ones you're supposed to be able to trust.
Exactly.
And in Amy's case, it goes really deep.
Yeah.
Like her husband...
It turns out to be her long-lost brother, Eamon.
Eamon, who blames her.
He blames her for their mother's death.
And he's been...
And has been controlling...
pulling the strings of her life.
Her whole life.
Oh, my God.
Like a puppet.
I know. Talk about a messed up family reunion.
Right.
It's insane.
And so now Amy is dealing with amnesia.
Right.
But also...
This
massive revelation that, changes everything.
It really throws a wrench in her identity crisis.
Another layer.
Yeah.
On top of everything else.
Okay, so how do we...
So Feeney...
Yeah.
Uses a letter that Amy wrote years ago.
Oh, wow.
As a bridge to her past.
Okay.
So we can see
what
happened before. What led to all this.
Okay, got it.
And that letter, it's a trigger for Amy.
Okay.
But also for us.
Oh, I see.
As readers.
Like a window.
Yeah, a window into her childhood.
With
Maggie and John.
Okay.
And their whole messed up dynamic.
So Maggie and John.
They were the ones.
Raising Amy. Okay.
And they use this code.
Right.
Say your prayers.
Say your prayers.
Before forcing her into
doing dangerous stuff.
Oh,
my gosh.
Taking something innocent and twisting it
into something terrifying.
Yeah. It's scary how easily people can...
manipulate you.
Yeah. Warp your reality.
Especially when you're young.
And vulnerable. And Feeney uses all these little details.
Yeah.
Like the green carpet liner.
Everywhere. In their flat.
Oh, yeah. And making Amy change her name.
Her name and her birthday.
What?
It's all about control. They're controlling her environment.
Yeah.
Her identity.
Even her sense of time.
Yeah.
They're stripping away
her agency.
Her sense of self.
And then they use McDonald's as a reward.
McDonald's as a treat.
But
it's so messed up.
Yeah, it's not really a treat.
It's manipulation.
Like they're dangling this.
A little reward.
Yeah.
To keep her...
compliant.
Yeah, compliant and dependent.
Oh, wow.
It's like a warped sense of gratitude where the victim feels like they owe something to their abuser.
Yeah.
It's really messed up.
It's subtle, but it's powerful.
Yeah.
And I wonder, how much of Amy's behavior, as an adult, is rooted in all of that.
In that early conditioning.
Yeah.
And then there were those red shoes.
The red shoes.
Just keep popping up.
Throughout the book.
Yeah.
And they represent...
escape transformation.
Yearning for
a
life that she
was robbed of.
Yeah, exactly.
They embody that desire for agency.
Oh, yeah.
That was taken from her as a child.
It makes you think about how
your past experiences can really affect you.
Even years later.
Yeah, even if you don't realize it.
Yeah, and Feeney explores that psychological impact.
The impact of trauma on memory and identity.
And Amy uses acting as a coping mechanism.
It's like she's escaping into
these fictional roles to avoid dealing with her own pain.
It's a way of avoiding reality.
It's fascinating.
And it makes you wonder, how many of us
do the same thing, use different forms of escape.
Yeah.
Right?
To deal with our own past, our own trauma.
Exactly.
That sometimes
those coping mechanisms,
they can prevent us
from actually healing.
From healing.
Yeah.
And so for Amy,
her acting
Yeah.
It's both a strength and a weakness.
Right.
It helps her function, but it also keeps her trapped.
In this world of illusion.
In a world that's not real.
Yeah, and that's something that Eamon...
He exploits that.
Totally.
He feeds her all these false narratives.
Yeah.
He manipulates her perceptions.
And then preys on her vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It really is.
Okay, so let's
take a closer look at
Yeah.
one of the most traumatic incidents from Amy's past.
The robbery.
The robbery.
That ended with...
John's death.
Yeah, and Maggie's.
Maggie's drastic actions.
Right.
To protect Amy.
That incident.
It really shows how trauma
Yeah.
can be cyclical.
Like it just keeps repeating.
Yeah, Amy is constantly...
Like forced to forget.
To forget.
To reinvent herself.
And it makes you wonder.
Can you ever really break free?
From the patterns of your past.
It's a question that haunts Amy.
And haunts us as readers.
Yeah, and it sets the stage for the rest of the novel.
For all the twists and turns.
Yeah, get ready because we're about to dive deeper into
Amy's mind.
And uncover all the secrets.
That have been buried for years.
Right, this is where things get really interesting.
It's about to get real.
So buckle up.
We're going on a ride.
And we'll see you
in part 2
of our deep dive
into I Know Who You Are. Welcome back to our deep dive into I Know Who You Are.
Where we left off.
Amy just found out that her husband
is her brother.
Is actually her brother, Eamon.
Oh, man. It's
driven by revenge.
For their mother's death?
Yeah, like a Greek tragedy.
Totally family secret revenge.
It's all there.
But what really got me is how Eamon.
He confesses.
Yeah, he confesses to everything.
And he's like proud of it.
I know, it's like he wants to hurt her.
He's like...
Psychologically.
Yeah, he's gaslighting her.
Big time.
To the extreme.
It's messed up.
He wants her to doubt everything.
Yeah. Her sanity.
Her reality.
Like, is anything real? But Amy.
She's tough.
She's a fighter.
Yeah, she doesn't crumble.
She wants to know the truth.
She wants to reclaim her agency.
And that letter.
The letter she wrote to Eamon.
Years ago.
It's like a key.
Yeah, it unlocks these memories.
Lots of childhood.
With Maggie and John.
Yeah, those memories come flooding back.
But it's not just psychological manipulation.
Right.
There's physical abuse, too.
We see how John used that, say, your prayers code to put Amy in danger.
Real physical danger.
Like, it's not just words.
It's actions, too.
And those scars.
They run deep.
The fear.
Yeah.
The feeling of being trapped.
It stays with you.
It shapes how you see the world.
And yourself.
Feeney does a great job showing the lasting effects of trauma. Even as an adult.
Yeah, she still has
anxiety, fear of being controlled.
It makes you wonder
if those early experiences made her more vulnerable.
To Eamon's manipulation.
Yeah, like it's a cycle.
A cycle of trauma.
And then John's death.
That robbery.
Yeah.
Maggie's actions.
It's all connected?
It's like a trauma.
Being passed down.
Through generations.
Maggie.
She was trying to protect Amy.
But in a messed up way.
Yeah, her methods.
They did more harm than good.
By forcing Amy to forget.
She took away her chance to heal.
To process the trauma.
Yeah.
And that leads us to...
a shed.
Oh, yeah, the confrontation.
Life or death.
Eamon has her trapped.
Physically.
And emotionally.
He wants revenge.
He wants to make her pay.
That scene is so intense.
I know the tension.
You can feel it building.
Eamon taunting her.
Blaming her.
For everything.
For their mother's death.
It's emotional abuse.
He's using words as weapons.
But Amy.
She fights back.
Yeah.
She uses the act.
The symbol of her trauma.
To defend herself.
It's a powerful moment.
She's reclaiming her agency.
But it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
She's scarred.
Physically.
And emotionally.
She has to live with what she's done.
It's not a fairy tale ending.
No, it's messy.
Complicated.
The aftermath of trauma.
Struggle to heal.
Feeney doesn't give us easy answers.
But she makes us think.
About the resilience of the human spirit.
So what happens to Amy?
Yeah, does she find peace?
Does she reconcile with her past?
Those are the questions.
So stay with us.
Long after we finish the book.
And then there's that flash forward.
6 months later.
Amy's giving an interview.
For her new film.
She's pregnant.
With Jack's child.
Seems like she's moving on.
But there's a sadness in her eyes.
Yeah, a sense of unease.
Like the past is still there?
And Jennifer Jones.
That journalist?
Yeah, she keeps probing.
Into Amy's personal life.
Like she can't escape the scrutiny.
The judgment.
It's like the past is always there.
Haunting her.
Now let's talk about Maggie.
Yeah.
We see glimpses of her life.
She's wrestling with her own demons.
She's such a complex character.
Manipulative, controlling.
Sometimes she seems to care for Amy.
In her own way.
Yeah, it's twisted, but...
We have to remember,
yeah,
Maggie is a product of her own experiences.
she's probably a survivor of abuse herself.
That might explain her behavior.
Her need to control.
And when she finds out about the cancer,
Oh, yeah, that scene.
it's heartbreaking.
She's desperate
To hold on to Amy.
to control her life.
She's terrified of being alone.
It's a tragic expression of love.
And fear.
Like she's trying to recreate the family she lost.
Using Amy as a pawn.
It makes you question,
People's motivations.
especially when they're driven by trauma.
And fear.
Okay, let's talk about setting.
The bedding shop.
Shit.
These locations.
They create this atmosphere.
And entrapment.
Paranoia.
Like they're extensions of the characters' minds.
Then the contrast.
Between Amy's glamorous life.
And her childhood in Essex.
That shows the duality.
Of her identity.
The past and the present.
Always intertwined.
Yeah, the past is never really gone.
It shapes our present.
Influences our future.
Okay, so
In the final part,
we'll explore
the climax
and the lingering questions
of I Know Who You Are.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into I Know Who You Are.
And oh my gosh,
I know.
so many twists and turns.
Amy's story.
It's just a tangled web of deceit
You don't know who to trust.
and manipulation.
I know.
It makes you question everything.
Even your own memories.
Alice Feeney is a
But
master.
no, she keeps you guessing.
Right to the very end.
And even then you're like, is
Yeah.
it really over?
Is it really over?
And those red shoes.
Oh, the red show.
I know, they keep coming back.
They're so symbolic.
Yeah, from her childhood
Mhm.
to the final scene with Eamon,
It's like they represent her journey.
her desire for escape,
Yeah.
for transformation.
For a life free from her past.
But they also represent
The blood.
the plan.
The
Wow.
sacrifice.
Such a powerful image.
The hope for a brighter future.
Yeah.
But also the weight of her past.
It's both.
It's but
And that duality.
it's central to Amy's character.
She wants freedom.
But her past,
Keeps pulling her back.
like her acting,
It's her escape.
it's how she cooks
She disappears into those roles.
to avoid her own pain.
Her own identity.
But can she really be happy?
Hiding behind a mask.
Living in a world of illusion.
It makes you think about.
The roles we all play.
Yeah, in our own life.
How much is real?
And how much is performance.
Right.
Now let's talk about power.
Okay.
The way these characters,
Maggie?
Eamon,
Yeah.
they control Amy.
They manipulate
Her guilt,
fear,
even affection,
to keep her dependent.
it's emotional abuse.
And it's insidious.
But Feeney doesn't make it simple.
No.
Maggie is complex
She's both a victim
and a perpetrator. Her cancer diagnosis,
changes things.
we see her desperation.
Her fear of losing Amy.
It's a twisted kind of love.
But it's still love.
And even
He's a master manipulator.
he preys on Amy's amnesia
Her desire for love.
for stability
He wants to control her.
and memory.
It's so fragile.
Amy can't tell
What's real?
from what Eamon planted.
It's the power of suggestion.
How our past.
Shapes our present.
Can we ever really know ourselves?
Or the people we love.
When memories can be so distorted,
That's the question.
it haunts Amy.
And it haunts us.
Okay, the ending.
It's shocking.
And ambiguous.
It leaves us with more questions than answers.
Feeney doesn't want to tie everything up neatly.
She wants us to think.
About the complexities of trauma,
The lasting effects of manipulation.
the possibility of healing.
We see Amy moving on.
Right
The Jack's child.
But there's that sadness.
In her eyes.
Japanese.
Like the past isn't over.
And Maggie.
Removing that splinter.
It's symbolic.
She's still fixated on Amy.
Still pulling the strings.
Sometimes the people who hurt us.
They can't let go.
So why should you care about this story?
What does it mean for you?
Well, it shows how manipulation
Yeah.
can creep into our lives.
Even from those we trust.
We have to be careful
About what we believe.
about the power dynamics in our relationships.
It's also about resilience.
Amy's strength.
Her ability to overcome trauma.
To find a path toward healing.
The past is never truly gone.
It shapes us.
But it doesn't have to define us.
We can confront it.
Learn from it.
Choose a different path.
It's a message of hope.
Of resilience.
That's what makes I Know Who You Are.
More than just a thriller.
It's a story that speaks to our deepest selves.
The parts we try to hide.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Into I Know Who You Are.
We hope you enjoyed it.
And that it made you think.
About the complexities of your own story.